Moral is, think before you give non-combat tools to players. They can, and absolutely will, use them to break everything around them. Give a child a hammer and all that. What's up, my beautiful people? Welcome to r/AskReddit, where today a DM gets a teenager drunk for their own amusement. If you're like me and tired of all the negativity out there, then come on in for your dose of Reddit hope and happy. Okay, so the question was, D&D Dungeon Masters of Reddit, what is the most useless magical item you've ever given your party, and how did they use it? They haven't figured out how to use it yet, but I gave my party a jar of kraken bait, full of rancid fish magically enchanted to attract a giant octopus when thrown in the water. The only problem? The jar is also cursed, and whoever possesses the jar loses the ability to open any doors or containers that require any sort of twisting motion. They can't open it. This is what you get for seriously considering buying the ring that turns you into a werecrocodile and giving the DM a how the frick do I balance this heart attack. And to the best part, they never stopped to ask if the jar is even a twist top. It's not. They just assumed they couldn't open it. A werecrocodile? What? How would that even work? On a full moon, do you become a crocodile? Do you just become a crocodile on a whim? What are the rules for this werecrocodile? And also, is this like Twilight sort of wear whatever? No wonder you had a near heart attack. A trinket that can excavate a 15-foot by 15-foot section of earth down to a depth of 5 feet. Turns out, I had also given them at some point prior a trinket that fills roughly the same volume with water. Also turns out that water can be frozen. It's surprising how many problems can be solved with various permutations on the applications of those three. For starters, anything under 5 feet tall can be suffocated if the person with the ability to freeze declares their cast as a reaction to the water being created in the pit. Anything around 6 feet tall just gets its head kicked in while it's frozen in place. Fire as a hazard? Forget it. Spike pits? Nah. Traps? Pressure plates? Combat on stairs? Nope. Anything that allows line of sight into an otherwise enclosed space? Yeah, everything inside is drowned now. Need an attack of opportunity? Make everything in front of you 5 feet into that hole you just materialized and cast a saving throw. Moral is, think before you give non-combat tools to players. They can, and absolutely will, use them to break everything around them. Give a child a hammer and all that. Okay, so I finally played D&D for the first time a few weeks back, and I did something kind of similar. Like, it was just kind of an introductory thing, but I was running as a druid, because, you know, that's what I love doing in WoW and whatnot. And for skills, I'd done, like, Shape Water, or whatever the cantrip was called, and then Create Water for one of the first level spells. And so we were making our way out to this swamp to go take on this bandit lord who was accused of murdering someone at a tannery. And we get there, and our DM's like, you're now stuck in the swamp, and it's considered hard terrain, and you can't go forward. You have to go over these mountains and whatnot. And I'm just like, well, if I can shape water, can I just keep casting shape water until we can just walk through, basically? And he gave me this blank deer in the headlights stare. And then after he reread this skill, he's like, yeah, you can. I guess you just walk through the swamp. Like, I don't think he'd ever seen that ability used like that before, and I had such a sense of pride. And then we all died to the bandit lord. Not our best moment. A lot of bad rolls right at the end. So when I first started playing D&D about 8 years ago, I was extremely shy and nervous to roleplay. In the second session, as we were headed to a meeting with a representative of one of the more powerful churches in the area, we came across a guy selling potions of firewater guaranteed to boost your confidence. The DM and the rest of the players had a chuckle at this, as he was obviously just selling booze. I, being a naive 14-year-old who knew nothing about names for booze, assumed this was actually some sort of magical confidence-boosting potion. Fast forward to the meeting. It's not going well. I'm really nervous for real, so decide to drink one of those potions mid-meeting. The DM tells me, yeah, I definitely feel more confident. After a few minutes he says, actually, could you slur your words a bit more? So I did, playing along. After the meeting ended, he had me roll a constitution check, and when I failed, he described how I was having a hard time walking straight and my vision was getting funny. And it finally clicks. Hang on, am I just drunk? Cue the whole table bursting into laughter, not having realized I had no idea what firewater meant and thinking I was just really into committing to this bit. Quite a fond memory of a very misinformative potions dealer. What a way to get inducted into D&D. I mean, my goodness. Okay, that's that's a good one. My DM gave my character a glove that when the word bravo is said, it emits the sound of applause. My friend's character used it to intentionally blow our cover infiltrating an enemy stronghold because he wanted to fight something. Well, you gotta make it interesting. DM had this Caduceus staff that was being protected by a 9th level spell with an engraving that said Vitus on it. Used it to conjure up a couple lemons once a day. When life gives you lemons, we made lemonade. And that was it. Belt of teleportation that only transported the belt and the pants of the wearer to an unoccupied location within 60 feet of the user. I put it in as a gag, but the players started using it to startle opponents by teleporting pants just above them. The shenanigans increased when they discovered the belt also teleported whatever was in the pants' pockets. Never underestimate human ingenuity. That, I imagine, has been the fatal mistake of many a DM in their campaign. I think my own story is when we got a wish from our DM who was known to be very good at corrupting wishes. We wanted something that made us able to breathe underwater, so after some conversation, one of our players went with the following. I wish for a magic seaweed that turns us into mermaids while letting us keep our stuff. The second someone took it, all of their stuff flew towards them. Luckily, the person who tried it didn't have a house, and they started choking because they were still on land. Yeah, you gotta be careful what you wish for. I'm not the DM, but at one point, we had a player who was a stage magician, so they got a magic hat that you could pull unlimited rabbits out of. Now, the DM thought this would be useless but funny. Little did he know how easy it is to weaponize rabbits when you're creative, and at one point, we even pulled a prison break using polymorph potions and about 85 rabbits after a few turns spent just pulling them from the hat. Not sure if this is what you're going for since it turned out to be quite useful, but it was intended as a joke and is one of my favorite items I've seen in any campaign I've played. As I said, never underestimate human ingenuity. I gave my party the Gloves of Contrariness as part of a cache of rejected items. The gloves can only be donned or doffed if the wearer desires the opposite. That is, you can only take them off if you want to keep them on. If you need them to stay on badly, they keep falling off. The party never found a good use for them. The Bag of Bacon. A small leather pouch that provides 1d8 slices of crisp, freshly cooked bacon once a day. It was a filler item in the inventory of an eccentric discount magic shop. Can't remember where I got it from. Anyway, there are daily breakfast checks now. Man, if ever there was something from D&D that I wished was real, a bag of infinite bacon. Oh, that would be nice. I do enjoy bacon. Completely breaking the rule of useless here, but here are some things I've thrown in to see what players will do. Spoon of Sharpness. A completely ordinary spoon except the end is as sharp as a razor. Functions as a dagger. Horned Longsword. The hilt and guard of this longsword is made of deer antler, which is inscribed as follows. I glow blue at the rising of bone. The blade inexplicably glows blue in the presence of undead or brothels. Lamonic Dagger. The hilt is yellow, slightly sticky, and smells slightly of citrus. The dagger may not have been created as intended. Breastplate of R. Was intended to be a breastplate of archery, but the creator failed to complete the inscription in time. +1 breastplate, wearer is forced to speak like a pirate. The Singing Sword. +1 short sword. Sword endlessly sings opera at excessive volume. Lyrics are often relevant to situation. In several campaigns, I've thrown a homebrew talisman of wild magic at players that want to play magic users but don't know the game well enough to be as effective as other players. The effect is often humorous or detrimental to the party, but occasionally allows me to shoehorn in a completely random plot branch. Wild Magic Talisman. When casting a spell, the user may elect to gain +1 to the attack roll and save DC of the spell, whichever is appropriate, and any dice rolled for the effect of the spell has a +1 modifier to it. For example, a fireball in 5th edition would deal base ED6 plus 8 rather than just ED6. If the talisman is used, the DM rolls on the D10,000 wild magic effects table. In previous campaigns, I've had effects such as the whole dungeon is now covered in 5 feet of snow, the corridors are 6 feet high. The sorcerer's hands are now the size of dustbin lids. This is useful as he attempts to stop sand pouring through a hole to fill the room he's trapped in. Every non-PC within 100 feet wakes up at dawn as an undead. The party is currently on a high-capacity night bus to another city. Roll initiative, boys. The spaceship you just cast a spell at has a portal to hell open up in its center, bisecting it. The two halves fall into the portal and disappear before the portal collapses. You're now in the middle of space in an asteroid belt with 4 hours of oxygen. Ideas, people! This one wasn't my design. You now take 1 point of damage every time you pass through a doorway. This began as a philosophical debate on what constitutes a doorway. Is it a doorway if there's no door? What about archways? What about a hole blown in a wall? This came so close to killing his character. Okay, for those uninitiated with D&D, I apologize for all the inside baseball lingo, but, that's pretty funny. One of my players found a broken drift globe in an old wizard's tower. It's basically a small globe that, when activated, floats after the players, giving off light. It's broken so it flickers a little, but hey, light is light. They immediately paid to change its command word to pseudo-activate sun, painted a Groucho Marx face on it, and bemused whether or not they could make it into a sentient magic item. It was like 20 minutes of the session. So what, you just have like a Groucho Marx ball following you around? Sounds interesting. Breeches of birches. These rough, fibrous trousers have the texture and coloration of birch tree bark. Though uncomfortable and stiff, no penalties are imposed on the wearer, besides chafing. If the owner spends a move action to stomp his feet, a fully grown birch tree will spring from the ground directly in front of them. Not useless, I guess. Just odd. I could think of several uses for that. In one of my campaigns, there was a store dedicated only to selling useless magical items for insanely cheap prices. I had a table of at least 80 items. One of my favorites was the Rod of Immovability, which becomes completely impossible to move when activated. The catch is that it's immovable in relation to the center of the universe, so it just flies away due to the planet's movement. No one ever activated it for fear of piercing the planet's core. Yeah, that would be a good reason not to activate it. You can find more of these funny D&D AskReddit stories at the playlist link on your left, or if you want to see the video YouTube would suggest for you, go ahead and check out the link on the right. Now you guys stay safe, stay healthy. I will see you all on Friday with more positive and uplifting Reddit content. Until then, stay beautiful, people.